It is 8:30, and so I will call to order the council meeting of Tuesday, January the 9th. We have an agenda in front of us. There is a couple of additions that I know of. I'm going to put it under 6.1, I guess, budget increase for an integrated facility condition and asset retirement assessment project. So we'll put that under 6.1. Councillor Penner has a Division 2, report. So we'll put that in council and committee reports. And I have a short conversation around a potential resolution for RMA. So I'd like to put that under 7.3. And this is just an introductory conversation to a bigger conversation coming at the COW meeting later in the month. Any other additions? Councillor Christie.
Quick verbal report on community futures.
Okay, 9.3, community futures. Any other additions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Councillor Christie.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The minutes from our regular council meeting of December the 12th were pre-circulated. Are there any corrections, errors that need to be dealt with? If not, I would be looking for a motion to Councillor McGee.
I move we adopt the minutes as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the minutes from December 12th, 2023 as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Christie. All right, the first thing on our agenda then that we will deal with is planning 5.1.1, bylaw 1894, which is a redesignation. Ms. Keever, you disappeared there for a minute, but welcome.
I know, good morning.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Yes, this is for a request to amend land use bylaw 1808. Brightstone Hutterite Brethren Church are the current landowners of a portion of southeast of 24/28/24 and northeast of 13/28/24. They have granted SABR Sabre Energy Consulting as their agent to apply on behalf of Adhill Tech Solution Limited to construct and operate a 9.97 megawatt natural gas fired power plant for a Bitcoin mining / data center operation. The proposed site is located approximately 6 miles southwest of the village of Carbon and is accessed via Highway 21. The applicants will be placing 7 natural gas generators, which will connect to 20 data center containers. An office trailer will also be placed on site. This lease will be directly west of the existing Ember lease. The portion of the northeast of 13 is for the access only, but the entire workspace will be within the southeast of 24/28/24. Ember Resources has approved the connection of the data center to their natural gas facility, and I have attached the uses for the light industrial district for you. And I don't know if you have any other questions.
Okay, so we have a redesignation here. Are there any questions? Councillor Christie.
How close is the closest residence to that?
Good question. At this point in time, I'd have to look. I think it's at least a mile or half a mile. I'd have to look. That will be all presented in the public hearing.
Okay, any other questions? So what we'd be looking to do then would be do first reading and then set a public hearing.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so what's the, Councillor Penner?
Just wondering, we said that it would bring in more tax income, like, so just more for the open house or whatever. Because that is a question we get about all these data, Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. If we're going to be able to put an approximate amount that we may be receiving in taxes for that kind of light industrial business.
I can ask our tax department, see what they can maybe possibly give me for an idea.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Forbes, sorry, I can't really see that hand, so.
It's okay. So the one that went outside of Torrington here, that might give you the information that you need, Deanna.
Okay. Now this
Because they
is-
also hooked into a natural gas one as well.
That was within the Ember site. This one is directly, I don't know if that'll change it at all, but we'll see, because this one will be directly west of the existing site.
So then I guess my next question would be is are we taking this out of agricultural farmland?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? So what's the wish of council? Deputy Reeve Whitstock.
I would move we give first reading to bylaw, which one is it, 1894?
Okay, thank you for that. So we have a motion to move first reading of proposed bylaw 1894 for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 1808 by redesignating a portion of southeast 24, 28, 24 west of 4 and northeast 13, 28, 24 from agriculture district to light industrial district. Any other questions? The redesignation. Not seeing any questions, so I'm going to ask all those in favor. And that's carried unanimous. Sorry. Thank you. We have another motion, and that would be to set a public hearing. And the request is for February the 13th. Councillor Penner.
I make the motion that council move to schedule a public hearing as per section 216.4 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act to be held on February 13, 2024 at 10 a.m.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to schedule a public hearing for February 13th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. I'll ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Keever. Guess we'll look forward to seeing you again. All right. We'll move on in our agenda then to 6.1, which is a request for budget increase. And welcome, Ms. Olson.
Thank you. Good morning, Reeve and Council. Today I'm presenting to you a request to increase the budget for the Integrated Facility Condition and Asset Retirement Assessment Project by $40,000 to increase the total project cost to $365,000. So as a reminder, this project was a merge of the Facility Condition Assessment and the Asset Retirement Obligation Assessment projects. This project is aimed to be completed over 3 years. We received expedited approval outside of the 24 budget process due to compliance needs for the 23 fiscal year end. And the initial approval was for $325,000, and that was on October 24th. So through the RFP process, we received submissions from 5 different proponents. 2 provided proposals for the FCA portion only, 1 for the ARO portion only, and 2 for the combined project. Costs ranged approximately from about $200,000 to $530,000 for the facility condition, and $16,000 to $49,000 for the ARO portion. Through careful evaluation, administration observed that the expertise required for the ARO and FCA portions of the project could be optimally delivered by different proponents. This has led to the consideration of awarding each project separately instead of jointly to utilize the most qualified proponents for each project. While each award will be separate, administration anticipates realizing efficiencies by concurrently executing both projects and sharing information between them as needed. So given the circumstances, additional financial resources of $40,000 are required, and that would be from the contingency reserve as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions? Councillor Forbes.
Did you realize that you needed this? Because we did our budget in December 12th. Did you not know this by then? So that we could have been added in, and this is why I was looking for actuals as well.
Through the chair, we had just finished our interviews yesterday, so we didn't have submissions by that point. I believe the submissions had closed actually on December 15th.
Mr. Hogan, you had a comment?
Through Chair, it was just to reinforce that is that the submissions received didn't allow for that knowledge to exist by December 12th. So this item is in front of you because we've just gone through that review of those submissions, done some of the necessary follow-up that was required as a result of that. So no, this information wasn't available on December 12th.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so what's the wish of council? We have a request to increase that budget by 40,000, and excuse me, and that's over a period of 3 years, right? That increase.
Yes, the total project over 3 years, although that will increase the 24 portion essentially, because they'll be doing the 11 facilities and probably larger facilities, which have a higher cost, and then the ARO will all be in that 1 year.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Penner?
I'll make the motion that council increase the budget for the Integrated Facility Condition and Asset Retirement Assessment Project by 40,000 to a total of 365,000 to be funded from the contingency reserve over a period of 3 years.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the increase of 40,000. So that increases this budgeted amount from 325,000 to 365. Any further questions or discussion? Councillor Forbes.
Can I just get a brief explanation from CAO Hogan on why we're doing both of these at the same time as opposed to one at one time and one at the other? Can I just get an understanding of that, please?
Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Chair, originally when we put this project forward is we felt that there would be efficiencies by doing them together because some of the data that leads to the asset retirement obligation is gleaned through the facility assessment. So when the parties go out to do the facility assessment, if they're looking at things like the structure of the building or what's in the building, say liability that's related to liability, so say asbestos or anything like that, that's information that will feed the assessment retirement obligations because under the new accounting standards, we have to take account of those things and the added cost for, call it rehabilitating them, retiring. I'm trying to avoid using the word retiring again because that's right in the title, but we have to do something with that asset at the end of its life. And so they're wanting us to ensure that we're actually accounting for that cost. And so the information that we use to do that is gleaned through the facility assessment. So when we put this out there is we felt that there'd be efficiencies putting them together. When we got the bids back, and if there's additional information beyond what I'm going to say, it might be a good closed session discussion because I can only go so far into it. But when we get the submissions back and we look at the data that, when we look at some of the rates that we got back, the proponent may be bidding a certain rate, but the data they're proposing to come out with may not be the actual data that we need. And so we can't necessarily go with that rate. or we look at what we see as the team or their ability to do the work, and that's part of the assessment that we put in. And so to Ms. Olson's point earlier, when she said that we think the optimal approach here is actually not to award them together, but to award them separately. There will have to be some sharing that goes in there. One of the options that's out there for council is we can look to postpone the facility assessment to a point. There is still some that we need there, but that is an option that's available to council, but we do feel that there's merit to them going forward together and getting that process started, because to get the facility assessment going is going to be a benefit to our asset management that we'll be on board here in February.
So thank you for that, Mr. Hogan. So I'm hearing that there might possibly be some more information that would be valuable to us as council. Do we want to table this and have a closed session item on it, or do we want to just have closed session right now and then come back? That way we can get the information that perhaps Councillor Forbes you're looking for, and then so if you would like that at this point, I guess I would look for a motion either to table it, or I'd look for a motion to go into closed session to have that conversation.
I would make the motion to go into closed session to get that information, please.
Sorry, Councillor Forbes.
Sorry. I would make that motion to go into closed session
Okay.
for the information.
All right. So we have a motion that we go into closed session for a brief conversation around this item. All those in favor? Okay, that is carried unanimous. So we are going to go into closed session at 8:47. We're good? Okay, so we had a motion to return to open session at 8:57. We recessed to allow the return of the public, and we're going to resume the meeting at 8:58. All right, so we have in front of us a proposal to increase the budget. We had some additional information provided. I have a question, I guess. I see that we're doing the asset retirement obligation assessment all in year one. The facility assessment takes place over 3 years. Do we not anticipate that there might be things discovered in facility assessment in year 2 and year 3 that might affect the asset retirement obligation? And so how are we fitting that information that comes in year 2 and 3 into the asset retirement obligation report?
Thank you, through the chair. Great question. The reason it's separated in that fashion is we have similar types and kinds of buildings. So we're going to be doing an exploration of those similar types and kinds to put the level of understanding a risk to meet our financial auditing requirements. There has to be a justification of understanding the risk, asbestos, different asset retirement obligations that are required underneath the financial model. As the FCA continues to those further years, it's going to just increase the accuracy of the information within the ARO. But we need a working point to understand of, for example, facilities within a certain age period have a higher degree of risk of having asbestos versus buildings of another age group. Different functions have different construction of those facilities, greater sheds versus, say, the municipal operations building. So using types in kind and those type of evaluations to understand what we have out in the field through those 11 facilities will give us, we believe, an adequate ability to make that model to meet our financial obligations. And as the ARO is new for municipal governance, we are going to go through whatever the auditors request for us to go, and we will clarify anything that we need in those following 2 years to increase the accuracy of that model. Ashley?
If I may continue a little bit more on the financial side of it.
Yes.
Asset retirement obligations are going to continue into the foreseeable future, and it's going to change as legislation changes. So there are going to be costs in the future, but we might not be seeing them necessarily as a budget. I intend to manage that in-house. So that will be adjustments with the templates we are going to get from the proponents. We will be able to update that information as new information is provided to us to ensure that we are continuing to make that more accurate in the future. As remediation occurs, as new buildings come on, as new legislation changes, we will be able to manage that ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, so basically what you're telling me is that what we're getting here is a template that we would then use to, on an ongoing basis, continue to update our asset retirement obligations.
Correct. The initial implementation, gathering of all that information, identifying where the concerns are, and templates to help calculate into the future.
Okay, so we're going to end up with a tool that we can use going forward. Okay. Councillor Cunningham?
I'm just wondering, for our ratepayers and anybody that's listening, I know the words "they" have come up quite a bit, compliance, mandated, AOR. I'm just wondering if we could have a little bit of an explanation to kind of like, to say who it is that's mandating or who's driving the bus for this process to happen. I think that would clarify it, I know, a little bit, again, for myself and even for the general public.
Thank you. Through the chair. This is mandated by the Public Sector Accounting Board, and they set the public sector accounting standards, and this is a new standard under that we have to follow through the MGA.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comment related? Councillor Penner?
Just a comment, I put this motion forward. It does hurt in the butt, like hurts when you keep coming back or whatever, but we've been talking about asset management for some time now, and the picture might look ugly, that we might have some awesome surprises. But I think we've got to get this process going, and the sooner we can get it going, then we can plan for future budgets with our facilities in what shape they're in. So that is the biggest reason I put this motion forward to agree with this RFD.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Gannon, please.
Thank you. I just would add on to some of the comments there. The FCA is quite important to create a baseline understanding to be more fiscally proactive versus reactive on our maintenance of these facilities. Reactive costs are one hits and they create variabilities of strain on budgets, and the more we can understand the life cycling or the maintenance requirements in our facility, the more fiscal deviations within our budget will be minimized or reduced. So that's the intention of better understanding our facility. It plays into the financial model quite strongly, but also gives us a tool to understand what we should be looking at within what time frame and be able to move forward with the asset management. So it is quite important to get this information.
Okay, so basically the facility condition assessment gives us an idea of where we're at with our facilities, gives us an idea of what our remediation liabilities might be when we retire those facilities, plus gives us an idea of what the maintenance costs might be over the life of those facilities. Okay, any further questions or comment? Councillor Cunningham.
Just to follow up on what Councillor Penner said, I totally agree. I think this is a needed, well, and then, like I said, it's something we have to do. I think it's just important. I know from my end, I do get a lot of comments about we are coming back a lot and asking we need more money for this and this. And I do understand it's a little bit of where we're at in the world right now. It's happening with not just municipal government. So I totally understand it, but just from our end, just know that we do get a little bit of that feedback, or I do personally.
Okay, thank you for that. We do have a motion in front of us. So is there any further discussion to that motion? We've had a healthy conversation around it. Is there any further discussion to the motion that we increase the budget by 40,000, so from 325 to 365,000 for the integrated facility condition assessment and the asset retirement assessment? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Olson. Appreciate your patience with us and being willing to provide the information. Thank you. So next item on our agenda is Master Rates Bylaw 1893. And on my agenda package here, it says Ms. Vanderkoel is going to take this. Is that true?
That is true. Good morning, Council. I bring you today Master Rates Bylaw 1893. So the Municipal Government Act allows Council to pass bylaws regarding municipal services. Kneehill County has consolidated the fees it charges for providing goods and services into a Master Rates Bylaw. And that bylaw is reviewed and updated annually as part of the county's budgeting process. Administration has reviewed the rates established in Bylaw 1893 and is proposing the changes summarized below. That water changes and flat maintenance rates are amended to align with the 2024 operating and capital budget. The wind farm energy conversion systems renamed to match the draft land use bylaw. Building and development permit fees updated. Weed control and management fees updated. Meter installation costs amended for better clarity. Campground fees updated to avoid redundancy and better clarity. The proposed fee changes are outlined in more detail in attachment A of this report on page 37, along with the proposed bylaw and the current bylaw that we are following. So council options today are to provide all three readings to bylaw 1893 or just to provide one reading.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions regarding the new master rates bylaw prior to us doing anything like making a motion? Are there any questions specific? Oh, Carrie, Councillor Forbes, sorry.
Sorry. Can you just explain to me, because I can't quite remember, and I did get a question on this, why are the sewer rates and the water rates different in different parts of our county? And this is just for someone who might be listening.
I could forward this on to Mike Zier.
Yeah, for sure. I can answer that.
Good. Mr. Zier, I was just wondering who's going to tackle that.
Thank you. I'll give her a shot. So thanks through the chair. You're correct that the sewer and water rates do vary. So if you look at the water rates for Wimborne and Huxley, those are actually a high quality groundwater supply with that. So we have a little bit different process on bringing it out and distributing it through that. Swalwell, Torrington, and Wimborne, or sorry, Swalwell, Torrington, and a lot of the other regional ones are either fed off of a Drumheller supply, Town of Three Hills supply, that sort of thing. So we do have a little bit higher cost based on what those are already initially charging us, and that's how we've set our base rates on there. A reminder for council that we are looking at a rate review for both sewer, water, and solid waste rates coming up this year, hopefully for the 2025 budget.
Councillor Forbes, was that adequate for what your question? Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Cunningham?
Just a clarification question. So if there's nothing under the 2023 rate, people would be led to believe there was no current fee for that in that year. Is that right?
So if it's a category that didn't have a fee in 2023,
Yeah, so like, for example, inspections for municipalities under 2023 rate, it was blank, but then it's got a proposed rate for 2024.
so page which?
37, or to any of them really, like some of them are blank and then some of them give the 2023 cost, so that would just be my assumption, right?
Yeah, that means that there was no rate or things have just changed. They moved things around.
Okay, thank you.
Or a new heading or a new explanation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, what is the wish of council? Councillor McGee?
Thanks. I would like to recommend that council give first reading to bylaw 1893, that being a bylaw to establish rates, fees, and charges for various operations, products, permits, and services.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councillor McGee that we give first reading to bylaw 1893, that being our bylaw to establish rates, fees, and charges for our various operations, products, permits, and services. Any further discussion on the motion? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Christie.
I'll move second reading to bylaw 1893.
Okay, so we have a motion to move second reading, bylaw 1893. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously as well. Thank you. Councillor Penner.
I would make the motion that council gives consent for third and final reading of bylaw 1893.
Okay, so we have a motion to give consent for third and final reading. Any discussion? I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Let the record show that that was a unanimous vote. We would need one more motion if someone would care to make that. Councillor McGee.
That third reading be given to bylaw 1893.
Okay, so we have a motion that third reading be given to bylaw 1893. Any discussion? I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? And that is also carried unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is 7.2, Tourism Advocacy Summit 2024. And Mr. Hogan, I believe this is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this is a this is a request from some members of council looking for council's approval to attend a summit regarding tourism advocacy. As per council policy, attendance at this does require the approval of council in order for the county to cover off expenses related to that attendance. So in the background portion of the RFD, we have included a link to the event website, as well as attached an agenda for the summit itself. So again, this is Councillors McGee and Christie looking for council's approval to attend this event as per council policy.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions regarding this request? Councillor Forbes?
That's not so much a question as it is.
Sorry,
When
Carrie.
we attended, oh, sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
when we attended the last one we went to, I just find that these are not really rural based. So I don't see the advantage of us going to, unless it's more rural based stuff that they're showing. I'm not sure how us spending the funds to go to this is beneficial, and why only 2 councillors, not it open to all of us.
Okay, so I guess my response to the question about why 2 councillors is I guess 2 councillors have requested permission to attend. But I don't know that it's exclusive to those 2 if there was others who wanted to go.
So I guess a follow-up question would be, is the ECDEV going?
So, Mr. Gannon, do you want to respond?
Thank you through the chair. Our economic development officer has a pre-engagement, but I will be attending.
Okay, so Mr. Gannon, you are attending. Mr. Christie, Councillor Christie?
Because I'm involved in the Economic Development Committee for Community Futures, we felt it would be something that somebody from there should go. That there's some heavy staff turnover there, so I would be the only one going from Community Futures for our office at Wildrose.
Councillor Cunningham, you had a question.
So just looking at the cost, I noticed it's got registration at $8.99 per attendee and then accommodation at $2.40. Are we looking at per diems, mileage, meals, any of that included as well? I'd just like to know what the total cost would be.
Mr. Hogan?
Through that, the entirety of the total cost would have to be calculated based on the number of nights. But all of the related costs would be included in the approval, and that's the purpose of that policy. So that includes per diems, meals, mileage, accommodations, any registration fees. I will note that in the approved budget each year, council does put money into attendance for these things. So as an example, in 2024, council as a whole has just under 177,000 slated for attendance at events like that come up. Those are your committee meetings plus other things and that is solely for the per diems. You have an additional 25,000 for mileage, an additional 40,000 for other expenses like meals, hotels, and things like that, and an additional 30,000 for registrations. And those are based on historical numbers.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Cunningham?
I appreciate that information, but I'm just looking for what it's costing us per councillor to send 2 of them. Just on quick calculation, I mean, I'm looking roughly at, it would be about $2,200 per member attending.
Through the chair, I think that estimate would be close. Probably in that $2,500 range would be the estimate.
Mr. Gannon?
Thank you through the chair. I just want to provide a few key opportunities of why administration has chosen to go to this summit on understanding our environment. Some of the presentations through the summit directly relate to some of the areas in which we are going. Key considerations to ensuring destination marketing, predictive analysis for tourism and hospitality, influencing tomorrow's travelers. There's some items here on tourism development, advancing discussions in your region, air route development to support future tourism, targeting visitation, strategies to engage and understand the benefits of tourism, myths and deconstruction of over-tourism narrative, and strengthening social license to support tourism growth objectives. So some of these, and those are only a few of them that we really triggered on as far as where we're trying to manage through ACDEV to provide additional clarification to council and our ratepayers.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Cunningham?
So I appreciate that, and I do appreciate council taking initiative to attend these events, but I guess I know there was probably, was there 6 of us that attended in the fall? I'm wondering, so from that one we attended in the fall. What initiatives or gains in our tourism goals have occurred since we've attended that event?
Councillor McGee.
We have identified tourism as something that we have on our agenda as wanting to move forward on it, and we have some opportunities for partnerships as a result of being at that. I had a great meeting at the end of that event with people who are connecting to try to partner with us. I had an opportunity to understand some of the language of how to make those connections and how to move our, it gives us the connection so that we are noted as well for opportunity. I've seen it as an advantage already that has made a difference in how I've gone forward in helping us move forward in our tourism goals, I guess I would say. I believe our tourism is a big part of the economic goals as well. I would say that a lot of times you're not going to see a direct, specific reported advantage quite that quickly. This is because this is a new thing we're developing, and I think the education we get on how to develop our tourism strategy is going to be the point of being at both the one we were at and at this one. But I also see there are, to the question that Councillor FOIP had, there are some things that are related directly to the rural areas as well. And I think a good way to get rural to be part of the story is to be there to yell at and yell the story. And I'd like to be sure to assure you that if I was there, that would be what I'd be advocating for as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Forbes?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I guess until we define what we're doing with Horseshoe Canyon and what our vision is for that, I don't see how, I mean, send admin, that's great, but I don't see how as a council this is really beneficial. I think our time and our energy and our funds should be put into us having the discussion around Horseshoe Canyon and bringing tourism to our actual county. And I don't see that happening at this type of a forum currently. It doesn't mean in the future it wouldn't open up, but I think our administration could give that if that is the case. Just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you for that. So I guess my understanding of the request in the conversation I had with Councillor Christie, and although I didn't have a direct conversation with Councillor McGee, was Councillor Christie's looking at it from the point of view of his representative on council from the Wild Rose, and I'm assuming Councillor McGee, because of her involvement with CAPE, is also interested, but it is a conversation here at council, has been a conversation here at council about opportunities. This is just one, I guess, potential opportunity to get information on how we might move forward. So, Councillor Forbes, I hear you saying that you feel that might be more appropriate just for admin to be there. And I guess Councillor McGee and Christie have made this request, and so as council, we need to make a decision. And this decision is specific to whether we allow council to attend. Councillor Penner.
I want to thank both Councillor Christie and Councillor McGee and Chris, sorry, back the other way around, pointing at you, for bringing this forward and letting us know that you are interested in this and you represent us on both these boards. And I thank you for doing that. And you both have higher positions on those boards. You're not just sitting there on them. You actually are on the executive and that kind of stuff. And I don't think it matters what conference we go to or what, there's so much in the conferences that don't pertain to us in rural areas and whatnot else. But when you go to a conference, they expose whether it's rural, urban, international, national. And I think it's important that the councillors go because you're telling our story. Administration can see a different side to it. And you as council have to convince us as a council too that this is a good idea, and we're not going to see things overnight, an advantage to attending it. Sometimes this takes a long time. It takes multiple years. to see a benefit of attending something. But I always figure if you can pick up one thing from a convention, not necessarily just in municipality, but in life when you attend things, if you can just pick one thing up from any convention, meeting you go to, that is valuable. So I want to thank you for bringing it forward that this is on and that you are interested in attending and representing the county and the boards that you sit on.
Councillor McGee.
In the meantime, I looked up, I took another look at the agenda for the event, and the highlights for me for why I would like to go to represent Kneehill County is one, the biggest one was the public lands access. So that is thoroughly rural. How is public lands allowed to be accessed by the public? And what can we do as leaders around that issue? And we know that there are some of our public lands that have been squatted on, I would say, by tourists. And you know, what abilities we have there, I think would be great information. I really like that we are looking at how citizen engagement looks like in tourism. That's open to all areas of Alberta, regardless of rural or not. What the tomorrow's traveler looks like, that will have a huge impact on how we develop going forward. This is very valuable information, I think. And I'm open to everyone being able to attend personally, but I do think that's a big ask.
Okay, thank you for that. I know that one of the reasons that we ended up looking at it and then eventually purchasing Horseshoe Canyon was a matter of public accessing on private land, not just on public land. And so the issue of tourism and access to both private and public land is becoming a greater and greater problem in rural Alberta for sure. And so thank you for that, Councillor McGee. Is there any other discussion regarding this request? Councillor Christie.
I guess one of the things that tweaked my desire to go to this is both at council and at Community Futures, we're getting information from the provincial government that they want to move tourism from the mountains out to central Alberta. I want to be involved in the front part of that, not the back part.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we've had a fairly fulsome conversation. Councillor Forbes? You're okay? All right. I guess I would be looking for a motion or either to receive for information or that we approve the attendance of the councillors or councillors to the Tourism Advocacy Summit. Councillor Penner.
I'd like to make the motion that council approve the attendance of Councillor McGee and Councillor Christie to the Tourism Advocacy Summit being held in Edmonton on February 4th to the 6th, 2024. And if there's any other that you want to attend, any council member, please bring it forward. Don't be ashamed. You represent us. And if you have to sit here as a ratepayer and justify going. So I make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the attendance of Councillor McGee and Councillor Christie at the Tourism Advocacy Summit being held in Edmonton, February 4th through 6th. I'm amazed at the restraint they showed here that they're not doing this in Jasper or Banff and making the hotel costs twice or three times what is listed here. However, any further discussion to the motion? We have a motion on the floor to approve. Any further conversation or discussion? Councillor Cunningham, sorry.
When I looked through the agenda today, this popped up to me. I guess the issue that I'm having is when I look at it, now that I know there's 3 attending, so that's $7,500 for a 2-day conference, and we're gonna give Stars Area Ambulance $3,000 for a year. And when I look at the public purse, I just have a hard time justifying that.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further discussion or comment? If there is none, I'm going to ask the question. Any further comment or discussion? Okay, I ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. At this point, I would suggest we take a recess. We'll be recessed till 9:40, so that's a 10-minute recess. And then we'll come back, right? It's 9:41. So I am going to call the council meeting back to order. And the next item on our agenda is 7.3, resolution. And this is a request that I made, and you'll see more of this at our COW meeting when we're going to have a conversation more around green energy. And it comes out of a conversation I had with our MLA and speaker, Mr. Nathan Cooper. And we were talking about green energy and the impacts it's having on our municipalities. And then we got talking about green energy and the impacts it's having on our electricity grid, both from a stability and a reliability point of view. And one of the things that we talked about in that process is there a way potentially within Alberta that we could legislate a baseline power requirement? So if a green energy company comes in, or any energy company comes in, and they say, we're going to add 100 megawatts to the grid, is there a way that the province could potentially legislate that they have to provide a minimum baseline of power? So if you look at the green energy, oftentimes it's at about 15%. So we've got 4,400 megawatts of wind in the province. And if we're only counting on 15% of that, so for us to get 100% of our grid requirement, we'd have to overbuild by about 7 to 8 times. So my thought was, what if we put forward a resolution asking the province to mandate or legislate power producers to be supplying us a baseline. So if, say it's a 100 megawatt facility, they have to provide at least 50% of that or have it available all the time. And if they don't, rather than us as consumers buying that power, they have to buy the power and put it into the grid. So that increases the stability. Because oftentimes what you find is, you know, we have companies who are buying that power at a much higher level. So if they're not generating the wind, they're still selling that power at that level, and they might be buying it at a much lower level. But the economics don't matter to me, it's the reliability. And so this is just a foreshadowing of a conversation I'd like to have as part of our green energy conversation at the COW meeting. Councillor Christie.
I know when the windmills came online in Huxley, they were only allowed to sell 40% of their capacity because they couldn't guarantee 100% of the time. So they're only allowed to sell 40% of their capacity. And that was when they can, it's like a bell curve. If they're producing 80%, that goes to when they're producing none. So they can't produce more than 40, they won't be paid more than 40%. So that whole business model to me just made me say I didn't want any part of that business.
And I guess, you know, whether they're, so if it's, say, 40% is what they're allowed to sell, then I think they should, personally, this is my idea, actually Nathan's and my idea, let's give credit where credit's due. If it's 40%, then they should be mandated they have to produce that 40% all the time.
Or buy it from somewhere else.
Well, and yeah, so they have to supply that 40%. Whether they're actually producing it themselves or whether they're buying it, to me it's neither here nor there. So today we're producing about not quite half in the wind facility that's in the northern part of our county, and the solar facility is not producing 10% of its capacity. So to me, that's so anyway, I give credit to Nathan because it's the conversation he and I were having that triggered this whole thought. And I think not just specifically green energy, but power producers in general we should be asking for reliability in that power production. And if it's not there in the production, at least in the supply side. So anyway, enough said. I just thought I'd throw that out in front of you today, and then we could go from there in the thing, it would take some time to get a resolution together, and I would think the fall session would be where I'd be targeting if we decided as council that's something we wanted to do. Councillor Penner.
I love every bit that I've heard this morning. And are you looking for us to give direction to administration to bring that information back to a COW meeting, or?
No, they are planning to come to a COW meeting with a conversation, and so I guess they might come prepared at that point to follow up on this initial discussion. Councillor Cunningham.
Just as a note, if any ratepayers or anybody is interested, Reeve King kind of alluded to it, there is a site called AESO, so Alberta Electrical Systems Operator, and it will tell you hour by hour where the generation is coming from in Alberta. And there's also a really good site called Reliable Alberta Energy, if you want to follow them on formerly Twitter or X. I'm not sure if they're on other sites as well, but it will tell you pretty much, again, hourly where the generation is coming from. So it's very interesting.
So currently of the 12,500 megawatts that are being generated, about 7,300 of that's currently be done by gas at this particular moment in time, so. Yeah. Anyway, enough said there. So that's something just to give you a heads up that I'm going to be asking, that we could make that consideration anyway. All right, next up on our agenda would be council and committee reports. And first on that would be 9.1, AQUA 7, and Deputy Reeve Whitstock. I see we have some information from you on AQUA 7. Is there anything further that you would like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to submit the meeting that we had at, when the heck was this? November the 2nd. We've held the water rates at $3.49 a cube because number one, we haven't been able to contact Drumheller to see what their increase is. So what we did is took the 5%, I do believe this, what they proposed for three years in a row. So we added that in, and we're hoping that that's where it's at. So that's why we left the rates at $3.49. We've got a little bit of an issue with magnesium in the lines when it scours. So the manager is looking into determining if there's a way to scrub the lines, whether there's different ways of doing it, different options. So what we're doing is just looking at those options and the costs of those. And the budget has been approved, and we've had a request from the town of Trochu looking to potentially join the system. I don't know where that's gonna go, but we are dealing with that, sending the information to Trochu, and I guess if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Christie?
If Trochu was to hook on, they would have to run a line from where? Back to Trochu?
Well, they would probably have to run it from a junction point on the AQUA 7 line. So I guess that would probably be in the Carbon Corner area of the 21 and the 575. I don't think the line gets any closer anyplace else, but my guess is that's where it would have to come from, but that's not up to us.
No, I realize that, but that's huge cost to make it happen.
Oh, it most certainly would be.
Okay, any other questions regarding Deputy Reeve Whitstock's report from AQUA 7? If not, then Councillor Penner, you would be up with your Division 2, Drumheller Solid Waste.
Okay, things are going so-so. There's a little report in front of you. Acquisitions have had to go up, and the biggest reason being we have to do an Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act review of it, and it has to be done every 5 or 10 years. Anyhow, we didn't allow for it in the budget. Being new staff and everything, and some of these things rotate around every 5 to 10 years, they didn't realize. And so that is the biggest reason for it, for the increase in the per cap. It's unfortunate. We try to hold it down. And then the fee schedules will stay the same for dumping down there, other than we have requesting that management look into the hydrovac material. Back in the day, we're not really sure why they did it by the axle when we have a scale there. So we want to change it to being charged by the scale. It's so much easier. You can justify the invoice by the weights and stuff like that. Other discussions that we had is finding out whether a landfill is an essential service, and so they cannot be closed more than 2 days in a row. And we were always told that with other like Canada Post and things like that, and they happen to close for more than 2 days in a row. So we're looking into that, but this year a few of the staff had to work Boxing Day, just the way that the season fell. EPR registration, of course, it's closed. Management was working with all the municipalities to get them signed up if that was what they were wanting to do. And now a big surprise to us was on the trans stores. We've been told that there's a few more that need to be replaced pretty quickly here, which is a real shock to us because we did such an in-depth review here a couple of years ago. And so we have said, whoa, wait, the management will work with the staff of the different municipalities and go over them and see exactly what is wrong. Maybe the Hollow are just doing their job when it comes to sales and stuff like that. And we, committees, we're kind of tied because there's just one in the province that does it. So committees are up and running, and hopefully we see some results here later in the year with reviewing. It's so interesting because of new management and everything. You get exposed to all this stuff, which has been great. We're redoing it. So, and then I just had put a little report on the convention that I went to, the Circular Economy Convention, and it's there for anybody to read if you have any questions about it.
Councillor Forbes.
Just one question. In regards to, sorry, I just got to get on your thing. The municipal requisition. So after the 2 years, will it be going back down, or is this going to remain at the $50.08 to cover off future costs?
Sorry, the plan is on our 3-year projection that it is going to come back down, and that's what we're hoping for. But like a lot of things, they never do. But the plan is we're hoping. But the big thing here is with EPR, we do not know what it's going to cost us. Supposedly, it's not going to cost us anything, but it's the unknown here with this EPR, which is being mandated on us. So hopefully this year we will find out more how the counties, how the landfills are going to be affected and what they're going to do. Are they a community? Are they a processing facility? We tick numerous boxes. So we have to wait until a pro comes forward to see how they're going to work with us. So we're hoping to bring the requisites back down.
Okay, any other questions regarding the Drumheller Solid Waste or the conference? Thank you, Councillor Penner, for that report. If not, Councillor Christie, you had a brief report on, well, you didn't say brief, sorry, Community Futures.
I'm going to make it brief because otherwise I won't be able to do it. Anyway, we had an Economic Development Committee meeting on Thursday and a director's meeting. One of the items that came up was the labor workforce study. The consultant that we had to start with was terminated in early October because they moved to Quebec and left no offices open in Alberta. So they've got another consultant that's doing a far better job. That the whole program will be about a month late in delivery. But they feel that the second consultant's doing a way better job, so the finished product will be better. So hopefully that keeps on track. The Yeti program is looking for students for the summer. Was very successful with a single one we had last year, but we have room for 4 or 5. So that needs to get back to our schools and that kind of stuff. So they are doing individual presentations to schools if they request it. So that, when you look at the whole history of that, it's extremely good. There's a step up from that program where there's a mentoring program for young entrepreneurs, both in high school and university, that set them up with mentoring programs that is the next level of that they're just looking into. So I don't know where that will go, but like, it's based out of Halifax, that program, and it's been extremely successful when the uptake is there. And I think if it gets off the ground, it'll be really successful, but to get that information to students is going to be important. They're just in the first part of the presentations of that to see where we're going to go. As you know, Wendy Gibraltar has moved on to Rocky View, so that's leaving a void in our office, but Trish is coming up to speed on the files that she's had very well. So I think at that, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Christie, for that report. Are there any questions for Councillor Christie? Any extended conversation is difficult when you have a cough. Okay, if there are no questions related to that, then what I would be looking for is a motion to receive for information the council and committee reports. Councillor Cunningham.
I just want to say, I hope students take advantage of that Yeti program because it was very well received last year. So with that, I'll make the motion that council accepts for information the council and committee reports, I guess now, as presented.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. In 2 minutes, we have a delegation, and they are sitting in the room waiting for us. So we'll take a brief recess and allow you to get ready, and then we'll continue with our meeting. So we'll take a recess till Okay, it is 10:01, and as such, I apologize to our presenters for that 1-minute delay. No, welcome. We're very pleased to have you here with us today, representing STARS, and we look forward to what you have to share with us. Glenda, we have seen you and heard from you many times previously, so welcome back. And what I'm going to do is we'll introduce council, and then we'll get you guys to introduce yourselves, and then we'll let you do your presentation. So Carrie and Jerry, if you want to introduce yourselves first. Carrie, if you go first, please.
Carrie Phillips, Division 4.
Morning, ladies. Jerry Whitstock, Deputy Reeve. Great to see you again. Well, back of your heads anyway.
Morning, ladies. Debbie Penna, welcome back to Kneehill County, Division 2.
Good morning, I'm Faye McGee, Division 1.
Morning, Ken King. I represent the northeast portion of the county, so Division 7.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming. Laura Lee Michelle Cunningham, Division 5.
I'm Wade Christie from Division 7 on the Northwest, or Division 6, I'm sorry. I can't get slap my fingers here. I really appreciate your service, but I don't want to use it. Thank you.
So I'll get our staff to introduce themselves as well. So if you would, please, Mr. Hogan, and then.
Morning, Mike Hogan, good to see you again.
Good morning, Carolyn Vanderkool. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Mike Zero, Director of Infrastructure.
Good morning once again. Kevin Gannon, Director of Community Services.
Okay, I think we've got everyone covered. So Glenda, and your.
Well, good morning. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces again and bring you an annual update. So I'm Glenda Farndon, Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for STARS. And I'm very pleased to have Jackie with us as well, Jackie Seeley.
Yes, good morning, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a Southern Alberta born and raised girl, actually from the town of Pisano, where I spent many years in nonprofit management and on our municipal council. So I'm very pleased to be here and to be on the journey with STARS and to bring you your annual update.
Well, welcome, Jackie.
Yes, so Jackie has been brought on to help me with serving all of the municipal councils across the entire province. So being co-located as a Southern Alberta girl, this is going to really help for the southern region. So she will be bringing you your annual updates moving forward.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Okay.
So anytime you're ready, if you want to go ahead with your presentation.
For sure. So we'll start on the front page there. You'll notice a little bit different logo. We have rebranded. We are going to be approaching our 40th anniversary in 2025 of serving Albertans. And so we, continuing on our life-saving mission, and also the fact that we will be able to provide critical care anywhere. So on the financial slide here, previously, we had a 10-year affiliation agreement with Alberta Health Services at 20% government funding, which expired in 2020. And we've been year to year after that. They made an announcement earlier in 2022 that they'd be looking at moving to 50% government funding, which I'm very pleased to announce that we did receive a top-up to 50%. That has continued on an extension for this past year. We are in current negotiations right now with high-level senior leadership of Alberta Health Services to hopefully secure another 10-year service agreement at the 50% funding. So more to come on the results of that at a future update. So currently, 50% of operational costs. So basically $10 million per base for 3 bases in Alberta, $30 million per year. So they've topped up to $15 million as 50% of operational costs. This does not include the Emergency Link Center. It does not include education and training or administration costs, which still leaves us roughly just under $28 million per year that must be fundraised. Of that is the STARS Lottery, which the loyalty launch has already happened, and it will officially launch to the public on January 18th this year. The lottery usually nets around $10 to $12 million. Now, last year you can see that it was 9.8, so it was a little bit lower than what we normally have seen. But still, you know, roughly $10 million net per year pays for one base in Alberta. So we're very hopeful that we will continue to have a very successful lottery. That accounts for 35% of the total fundraising, still leaving us roughly $18 million per year that must be fundraised. And of that, the generated $2 million per year from all of the municipalities that we receive support from annually, like yourselves, is included as part of that $18 million that must be fundraised. Next. So here's where we're at now with our lovely map showing the municipal support across Alberta as well as into northeastern BC. So everything that you see green, they are a municipal supporter of STARS annually, like yourselves. So we currently now have 9 municipal leaders that have a fixed rate of support in their budgets each year on a standing motion. These range from $100,000 to $210,000 per year. We're included as a line item in their protective services budgets, and they are represented on the STARS helicopter. We are now also, we've recently, in the past year, we've added 5 more rural municipalities as well as 6 more urban municipalities. So there's still 3 pending that we have asks on the table, as well as you can see we are starting to build regional partnerships, though in those that are represented in the yellow boxes. This represents that towns and villages that lie within a county's boundaries have partnered with the county and are also an annual supporter. And these all start at a minimum $2 per capita. So approximately more than 50%, you can see, are already building regional partnerships. And this is our focus for Kneehill County and Three Hills area. So as we move forward, it's basically showing us that on a collective effort, this united municipal effort is ensuring that all of us have access to a robust health and safety network for all. Next slide.
So just before you move past that,
Yes.
can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So you say you have some regional partnerships. Are there any of our municipal partners in this region supporting STARS on an annual basis, or is just us, Kneehill County?
Within your own boundaries,
Yes.
currently it's just Kneehill County, but we are planning to approach town of Three Hills as well. So if you look around Kneehill, all those in yellow boxes, that there are other towns or villages within each of those counties that are also supporters.
Okay, so currently it's just Kneehill County. None of our 5 municipal partners are supporting STARS.
Within your boundaries.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
but it's because we have not gotten there to ask them as well. So that is on our agenda for this year.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's have a look at the 5-year overview for Kneehill County. So this is up to December 15th of last year. So you can see on an annual average about 13 to 14 missions per year within your boundaries. Now, Three Hills Hospital is also, you can see, is a very busy hospital. Last year, we tripled what we had previously done for them the year before as far as critical interfacility transfers. Now, this is included within Kneehill County because it's important to understand that the majority of all interfacility transfers occur because of a scene call or an medical incident outside in the rural county areas, and because that patient has been delivered by the local ground ambulance to the nearest hospital, and then of course because it is of critical circumstances that STARS is called to come and get these critical transfers and get them to tertiary care. So, it gives you a good understanding of what's actually happening throughout your rural areas. And then all the other locations listed would be actual scene calls that have occurred nearest to those particular communities. So on an average of 13 to 14 missions per year, since 2010, 195 missions have been flown within your boundaries. Again, really showing that you are on an annual average of 13 to 14 missions each year. Now, of course, last year we were significantly higher than that. So on a 5-year overview, 73 missions in total in the last 5 years. Next slide, please. So last year I did bring you an update about the postal code project. So let's look on the left-hand side first. Since 2010, we were able to access data utilizing postal code of the patients. So these are postal codes that lie within Kneehill County boundaries. 144 residents in total through these all different resident communities have been flown by STARS. So an update for last year alone would show 17 residents that lie within Kneehill County boundaries that have been flown by STARS. But again, more interestingly is on the right-hand side. These red dots, or the locations listed across the bottom, are all of the different areas where these 144 residents have been flown. So your residents have been flown from 3 different STARS bases in Alberta. 103 of them were picked up within Kneehill County itself, and 41 of these residents were flown from 15 other municipalities across the province. So again, really demonstrating and showing the partnership between Kneehill County and STARS and the value to your residents that they have access to STARS all across Western Canada, where we have the 6 bases. We have some municipalities that they have red dot locations across all provinces, 4 provinces in Western Canada. So the partnership is of the essence. Next slide, please. Jackie.
All right, so our Emergency Link Center is located at the base in Calgary. They receive over 36,000 emergency requests per year, on average 100 per day. They work closely with 911 dispatch and have access to every available resource across the province. And the STARS Vigilant program monitors over 4,000 industry sites every year. So they work closely with industry on every aspect of like integrated safety and emergency response plans. So when it's the Emergency Link Center that links together all of these resources on one call, saving precious time. Next slide. Okay, STARS provides critical care physically and virtually. So here we have a STARS transport physician taking a shift in the Emergency Link Center. They provide medical and procedural guidance on every critical call, regardless of the mode of transport. So a STARS crew member may accompany a patient by ground ambulance or by Alberta Health Services fixed wing. The STARS transport physician will make all logistical requirements with the receiving doctors at the receiving hospitals, like scheduling a neurosurgeon, the cardiac cath lab, or a CAT scan for a stroke patient. So while that patient is en route, precious time is being saved on both ends. The H145 is a generational investment. So all 6 bases are H145 operational. We were able to sell off the remainder of our BK117 fleet and put the proceeds of that toward this capital campaign. So all 10 helicopters are completely paid for. Last year, STARS celebrated 20 years of having night vision goggle capability. We were a leader in innovation, being the first civilian organization in Canada to be able to fly at night. And with more than 50% of our call volume occurring at night, this is essential. Each base is also equipped with mandatory training simulation labs. Our crew members undergo up to 200 hours of training per year. This is through online textbook training and also hands-on simulation training that gives our crew members the critical care expertise that is required. They work with high-fidelity mannequins Each base is equipped with high-fidelity mannequins in every size, from adult, pediatric, neonatal, and even pregnancy mannequins. We're very fortunate to have industry partners who have funded these high-fidelity mannequins that cost up to $300,000 per mannequin. So we're very thankful for that. Each base also has clinical educators who will put our crew members through rigorous, complex, distinct cases so that they have the hands-on experience that they need to be able to handle critical situations. We also do simulation in the field because our crew members must be ready for the unthinkable. They must be able to handle inclement weather while taking into consideration patient vulnerability in high consequence situations. We do extensive work with our chain of survival partners as well. Local fire departments, we do training with them for landing zone training. And in fact, your local fire department can go online to stars.ca and request online landing zone training. Because as your fire departments recruit new people, it is essential that they have this training. For them to feel comfortable, they will find the information very valuable.
So last year, I did report to you about the Air Medical Transport Conference simulation competition that's worldwide each year, and STARS has participated now for 21 years. In 2022, we celebrated the fact that STARS won first place, marking the 7th time in 21 years. So our last year team, they came in as runner-up. We're still very proud of them. You know, worldwide, that STARS has placed top 3 all 21 years really speaks to the fact that we are bringing the highest level of critical care to your residents. The competitions are very rigorous competitions. They must triage multiple patients, and they put together the most complex and inconceivable critical situations that they throw at them, and they're graded upon their decision-making, the timing, as well as patient outcomes, utilizing the high-fidelity mannequins as well. So to give you an idea, last year's scenario was the fact that it was a head-on collision. The husband was ejected from the vehicle with a massive head trauma. The mother had head trauma as well as she was pregnant and going through cardiac arrest. And the child was in the back seat with a head injury as well. So there are multiple patients that a team of 2 is having to, assess and to triage all 3 patients. And then at this particular conference, all of the lights went out. This was not a planned thing. And for more than 2 hours, they had to continue to maintain all of their patients in the dark. And so that's the kind of situations they're put through and they're graded on. It's really rigorous. So we're very proud of our crew members. And in closing, we'd like to say first, thank you, Kneehill County. You have been a supporter of STARS since the very beginning, since 1988. That's pretty substantial. That really speaks volumes to your county and your residents. We thank you for your leadership, your dedication, and your support. Now, currently, like I have had the pleasure of working with your council as well as previous councils since 2011, and I've really appreciated how we have gone forward and continued to ensure that your residents have access to critical care. Kneehill County lies within the heart of helicopter country, and we are a essential asset and service for your residents and area because of your location. Now, your current pledge, you're still in a current pledge through 2025 at $3,000 per year on a fixed rate, which we very much appreciate the fixed rate. We have a lot of municipalities that are moving to fixed rates so that there isn't fluctuation in census that we have seen in the last couple of years. So that really does, again, speak volumes to the fact of being able to have substantial, sustainable support for our missions. Now, based on your area of 13 to 14 missions per year, and this has been consistent, we've seen this, since 2010, that represents, just in mission-related costs only, anywhere upwards of $120,000 to $140,000 per year in mission-related costs. So with that, we're asking for your consideration to look at whether or not you could move to a graduated proposal in order to reach a $2 per capita rate in 2026. So we'd really appreciate your consideration. It's viable in the fact that, mission volume is remaining consistent. We saw last year that it was 21 missions, significantly more. We really need to continue to build, and we will be trying to build those regional partnerships within your county as well. So we really would appreciate if you would consider this graduated proposal. We're averaging 9 to 10 missions every day. Half of those are in Alberta alone. So 5 missions per day, every day. Literally, a life is saved every day. But it's partnership that has made that possible for almost 40 years. So we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Glenda and Jackie. Appreciate your presentation. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Christie.
2 maps tweaked my question.
Okay.
Do you get any federal funding from the federal parks? And it looked like 2 of our patients were picked up from a federal park.
Currently, we do not, because we are considered a provincial service. So we do not receive federal funding other than the fact that all levels of government were a part of the more than $150 million capital campaign for the 10 helicopters, and federal government did pay for 7 of those helicopters.
Okay, thank you. But you do cover the parks if they need you.
We do cover the parks area. It's the same as, in other areas as well, like southeastern BC, where I'm very hopeful that we're going to get to southeastern BC. We have unanimous support in northeastern BC, which is largely due to industry. So they did come on board, and they've been supportive of the STARS Grand Prairie base that serves their area since the very beginning, so for 17 years now. So we will be looking to further try to, involve all of the other areas. But as of this year, there's only 2 of us. I've been doing it for 17 years alone. It's a very large province. So continuing to try and have unanimous, united support in Alberta is also key.
Thank you.
Councillor Penner.
There's 3 bases in Alberta, and you have 6 in total.
Yes.
A couple in Saskatchewan, whatnot else. Now, this is a
Regina, Saskatoon,
Yeah.
and Winnipeg.
Oh, okay. So my question is to do with fundraising. The funds raised in Alberta, do those funds stay in Alberta, or do they help cover the expenses of all bases?
Absolutely, they stay in Alberta. Each municipality is provincially. So like there's 50% government funding in Saskatchewan and 50% fundraising. All of their funds or any community events or anything municipally related all stay within Saskatchewan. Everything stays within Alberta. And we have about 90% government funding currently in Manitoba as we continue to try and grow community outreach, community events, work with their government, starting to engage some of their municipalities, and they're kind of on a scaled approach that each year they will go down a little bit in their government funding and increase the opportunity to connect with communities.
Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Another question, just for my clarifications, I heard you get 15 million a base from the provincial government, so it's 30 million a base to run. What was the 15 million?
No, $10 million per base. 3 bases in Alberta equals $30 million operational costs, remembering that it did not include the Emergency Link Center, the Dispatch Center, or education and training, or administration costs. So strictly just operationally related costs. So $30 million in total per year in Alberta. And then Alberta Health Services provided 50% of that, which is 15 million.
Oh, I see, 15 of the total, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Sorry, I was confused per base. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
No worries.
Councillor McGee?
Could you please go back to the slide where you showed us the number of transports of the Kneehill County region? That one, yes. I noticed that you said Three Hills Hospital, it had quite a high number compared to prior years. Now, are you saying that those are patients that were admitted to the hospital and then needed to be transferred out? How does that hospital piece work?
So once a scene call occurs at a rural area, so if that patient has been taken by ground ambulance, like that was the nearest local resource, so they've been taken by ground ambulance to the nearest hospital, rather than being picked up right on site in a rural area. So the other area locations are scene calls, meaning that it's on the side of the road, stars landed right on the highway, those types of things. It's a scene call. Or it could be at a ranch or a farm that maybe someone had a heart attack or stroke and we've landed right on their location of their farm or ranch. In addition, when there's scene calls where a patient has been picked up by local ground ambulance and taken to the nearest hospital, as soon as it's deemed critical, then STARS is called to intervene and start to bring the critical care piece with the transport physicians. So we're also able to virtually help that hospital to maintain that patient while the helicopter is en route to come and get that patient, because it is critical.
So does the hospital funding through Alberta Health Services or the government in any way support that component?
That's where the $15 million comes in. That covers any and all critical transfers. So previously, we had 20% funding, so we're very grateful that they have gone to 50%, and now we're just hopeful to secure another 10-year affiliation agreement.
So you mentioned that the Saskatchewan government pays 50% of your costs to operate there.
Yes.
Are they covering just operational costs, or are they covering total costs of your service in Saskatchewan? So like in Alberta, it's 30 million for the operating costs.
It would be operating costs because all bases use the same emergency link center as our dispatch center and for all bases. So there's not dispatch centers in each individual province, right? Okay. So it's just operational costs.
Okay. So then is some of the fundraising that's taking place in Saskatchewan covering the cost of that operations center?
Certainly, like we do have a successful Saskatchewan lottery that was started a few years ago. It's certainly not quite to the tune of what Alberta's lottery is, but we're very hopeful and we continue. All of those funds would stay in Saskatchewan and attributed to those two bases. They have several significant fundraising events annually that raise $500,000 or more, right? Those funds are all going to support both those bases. And then they have numerous rural community events as well. So any fundraising that's done in Saskatchewan supports those two bases.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGee.
I'm sorry, I still need more clarity on my original question. So what I'm thinking about is a patient's been admitted to the Three Hills Hospital for 2 days. They now have gone into cardiac arrest. STARS is called. Mm-hmm. Where does the funding come for that type of call?
That's still included in the 50% funding. So, in essence, we are assisting the level of care that can be provided through that virtual care as well. So not always helicopter response. You know, but like lots of times there is opportunity now with the virtual care, like FaceTime, actual physician to physician, being able for our transport physicians to provide virtual care, like for procedural guidance, those types of things, you know, maybe intubation, things like that. If it's deemed that we still do need to get that patient to tertiary care, if they require the cardiac cath lab or something like that, then yes, we will still go. You know, but there are other times when maybe even weather, for example, or we may be on another mission at a neighboring county and the helicopter is not able to come, then we still also provide critical care through the virtual care. So it's another way of really enhancing critical care in the rural regions, you know, so that there's always some access to critical care expertise as well as procedural guidance.
I have to commend you on that. I think that's a fantastic program that we have here, and I appreciate it a lot. What I do not appreciate is that 50% is not covering that enough, in my opinion. You are supporting our health services program immensely, and I think it's imperative to know that, in my opinion, 10 years is too long for you to have that locked rate. With the cost going up, I think you deserve way more than that. And that's my point that I'm coming forward. I believe some of your calls have increased from, it's my personal belief, that some of those calls increase in Three Hills Hospital now is because we have less and less service available at our local smaller hospitals. You guys are being called on because of cuts and changes in how Alberta Health Services is doing service, and you're compensating for it. And I just think that needs to be said, and you need to be aware when you ask for funds that in my mind, that's not acceptable. You need more funds.
Well, I would certainly appreciate that, sincerely, as well. You know, our role is the critical care piece. If it's not critical care, we've been named or deemed as the critical care provider for Alberta. So in critical circumstances, then yes, we will continue to be called upon. If it's not of critical circumstances, then, you know, they're going to have to sort their own things out with ground ambulance or a fixed wing or however the case may be. That being said, though, we do appreciate the support that you're providing in that respect, but at the same time, I'd like to acknowledge that it has been 13 years now that we've tried to move to 50%, right, and only been at 20. So more than doubled what we previously were receiving. We are immensely grateful that our partnership with Alberta Health Services is moving forward, and that in Alberta, where we first began, that they are at least now stepping up and matching what other provinces are doing that have had service, you know, 20 plus years less than Alberta. So I do feel that we've made significant strides in our partnership with Alberta Health Services. But again, we do appreciate councils like yourselves that recognize what the future may hold. Thank you for that.
Sounds like you might get some advocacy being done on your behalf.
Well, we can always appreciate that. Like, you are our most significant partners with a voice.
Well, right now with healthcare, they have that review that's ongoing, and there's lots of places for Albertans to put their input into that process. So that's perhaps a place where they ask, what else do you think should happen in the primary care side? And so that's maybe a place to put that in. Councillor Cunningham, you had a question or a comment?
I have a few comments. Okay. STARS is one of my favorite topics. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it to the day I die. My dad was 46 and he had a heart attack here in the area, and the beautiful red helicopter came and picked him up, and was told when he got to Foothills that saved his life. So unfortunately, he had another episode about 3 years later, had another ride, but that was just a bigger episode. But he wouldn't have been alive if he wouldn't have been transported by STARS. So I'm eternally grateful for that. got to know Dr. Greg Powell, who of course, founder.
Yes.
Dr. Greg Powell. Of course, we had the Kevin Holler Celebrity Golf Tournament here for years, which was great. But I just want to comment too on the work that the Rumsey community has done. My husband and I were able to attend that this year, and it was amazing.
Yes.
And we got to see that beautiful new helicopter up close and personal. That's as close as I want to get to it, but unbelievable. You know, when they showed us like the ultrasound, like what can be done on that new helicopter is, I mean, I can't even understand it. So, but just kudos to, I think Rumsey went over $1 million, I think, with their fundraising. So kudos to them. So yeah, I just can't thank you folks enough for everything you do. I encourage everybody to get out there and buy their lottery tickets. I'm gonna win, but you know, go ahead, maybe I'll get second. But yeah, I think just anything people can do to be involved with STARS is so important. And I agree with Councillor McGee. There's some advocacy provincial-wide that we can certainly be a part of. So thanks again for coming, and thanks for everything that you folks do.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning about the intensive care unit environment in the hospital. That is the key point, especially for areas like Kneehill County, is the fact that the critical care begins as soon as we reach the patient. So, you know, I brought you an overview last year about all the specialized medical equipment, some of the really nuances in the back now. And that, you know, really does speak volumes. That's when the critical care begins. And if we're not able to come now with the virtual care as well, that's just another game changer for our rural hospitals and our rural medical personnel to be able to engage with them and the physicians face to face.
So are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Penner?
Thanks, ladies, for coming in.
Yes.
I look forward to, and I really enjoy hearing how you're going to visit with our regional partners within the county here. So, and I really look forward to the feedback from them on how what they're going to do going forward. So I really enjoyed hearing that you're going to be visiting with them here in the near future.
Certainly, because, you know, we do want to, we'll just go back a couple here. We do want to build those regional partnerships. You can see that it's pretty solid throughout, you know, and these are all of your neighboring, bordering neighbors are all at a minimum $2 per capita or higher. So this is kind of what we've taken across the province, is $2 per year on each resident to ensure that we continue to have access is really sustainable support. And some, you know, the range is quite massive. It ranges the majority from $2 up to $90 per capita. So there are some big players in there, but they're doing that on the effort to ensure that we all as Albertans have access to STARS.
Okay, if there's no other comment, would like to say thank you.
Thank you.
Not only for being here today, but for the continuing service that we get from STARS and the vital part it is to our rural healthcare system. And we all sitting here know somebody who's had a ride with STARS. And the outcome usually has been very, very positive as a result of that. And so we are very grateful for the service that STARS provides and the part of our medical system that it is. So thank you for being here today. And we certainly always look forward to hearing from you and getting an update. So
Thank you very much. We really appreciate every opportunity to be in front of your council as well. And we appreciate your time and we appreciate your consideration.
well, the advantage of being in front of us is now you're in front of all our ratepayers as well, because they have access to this streamed video. So.
It's important, though. This is good information for residents to know as well.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time and for coming and joining us today. We appreciate it very much. Jackie, it was nice to meet you. Glenda, of course, we've seen many times before, but we look forward to seeing you more in the future. So thanks for being here.
Okay. We brought you a calendar, maybe from Mike's office, and the latest newsletter. It's also available online. It was sent to Carolyn. That okay. You're gonna have to. I should have brought two. Yes. Anyway, and Carolyn has the digital link to the latest newsletter that she can share with all of you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you again. We'll look forward
And
to seeing
safe
you.
travels home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you next year.
Preemptive strike.
I've known Mike for a lot of years in his past lives.
So now we'll watch Mike and Kevin arm wrestle over who gets that one, eh?
Yes.
He is my boss, he runs reviews,
Uh-oh. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. All right, are we good to continue? Okay. So it just happens to be that because of the way the meeting timing is working, we can deal with 8.1, which is disposition of delegation and public hearing business. And 8.1 is STARS Ambulance. So STARS has been here today. We have had an amazing presentation from them. We've seen their request of what we might consider doing going forward into the future. And so I guess any questions, comment, discussion related to the presentation that we had today and the request that was in that presentation? Councillor Cunningham.
I think we've talked ad nauseum in the last year about the costs of everything, whether it be equipment or services, whatever is rising. Clearly, their costs are rising as well, so I have no problem going to the $5,000 to 2024 and the $7,500 for 2025.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Penner.
I want to thank the ladies for coming in and that. Budget has been done, and we have this in there. Now, we're talking about a regional partnerships and whatnot else here. I feel, I know there has to be increased at some time, but I don't want to set a precedent, think the other municipalities within our municipality thinking they have to get to that right off the bat. So I would like to see it stay for this year, being budget is done, and then see what comes out of the regional partnership, and maybe the regional partnership will discuss it at one of their meetings, if they've been approached, and we can work out that way if they have been approached. They are a valuable resource, all ambulances are, no matter where you are. But that's just my feeling right now.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comment? Councillor McGee.
I like the idea of bringing it forward to regional partnership. I'd love to hear what our CEO has to say about that. But before you answer that question, I would also like to add that I would like to have a lot more information before I approve going up. Just in that I really am concerned that our health services are being downloaded more and more all the time, and our ratepayers are expected to come up with the funds for that to happen. And I'd like to know just how that all works a little bit better. I have a problem with someone being at the hospital for 2 days, going into cardiac arrest, and then it's donated funds that contribute to them being able to get the help they need. I have a problem with that, and I don't know how accurate that is. Having said that, though, I do highly appreciate STARS and all that they do. I think we are just so fortunate in this province to have them, but I would like a little bit more information before we go forward, both about what our partners would do, as well as how does that component of health services responsibilities actually work.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comment? Councillor Forbes.
I do appreciate all this information. I would like to maybe make the suggestion that we do move forward within the increase because STARS, because of the cutbacks that are happening with AHS, the Three Hills Hospital is our heart for our community. So if we don't have that lifeline that gets our residents from point A to point B where they can get the actual critical care they need, I'm not sure we're doing what's best for them at the end of the day. And as much as I love our partners and I want them to be part of it, I think we need to take the lead on this. And whatever else they choose to give will be up to them, and that'll just be a bonus coming from the urbans within our area. Just my thoughts.
Mr. Hogan, you had a comment?
Just through you, Mr. Chair, to follow up. So we can do some digging into how the billings with AHS work regarding STARS transfers. We'll have to sort into that and see what we can find. In regards to putting that to the regional partners, we can absolutely do that encouragement. Beyond that, though, obviously we can't commit them to any funding or anything like that. But I'd suggest if that's something that we wanted to take to the KRP, I guess if you wanted to do that as a formal project request or as part of the roundtable, it would be up to the council which tactic you wanted to go forward with.
Councilor McGee.
I would like to suggest that we make it a formal project where we give the opportunity for STARS to make the same presentation to all of them at once, and there is a regional conversation, and then, you know, their decisions go to council after that, but just be the facilitator of making it happen with less effort.
You're suggesting that happen through the partnership? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If council wants to put that forward to the Kneehill Regional Partnership as a tangible project, that would require a council resolution as per the KRP terms of reference.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
So could I make that a motion at this time, Chair, or would you like us to put that on agenda at a different time?
No, I'm perfectly open. It's up to council. If you would like to make a resolution that we do that, then I think it's appropriate that. So it'd be a recommendation from us to the partnership, or how does that work?
It's a request to consider, what did you call it again?
If council gives us a moment, we can wordsmith the resolution if there's other
While
questions.
you're smoothing, is there any other comment regarding STARS and their presentation today, or any other related issue? Councillor Christie.
I'm thinking that we've been at $3,000 for several years, and I'm thinking we're behind the escalation of costs. I'm fully in favor of going to $5,000 this year. Not sure about the $7,500 till we talk to the regional partnership, but for sure this year I think we need to move something, because I think 3,000 is short. It appears to me that $1 per cap is 50% of what everybody else is doing, so we're still behind the 8 ball.
Okay, thank you for that. So now we have some wordsmithing done. Councillor McGee, that council forward a proposal for regional STARS funding to the Kneehill Regional Partnership. Is that how you'd like that worded?
STARS funding presentation. So I just want to facilitate the presentation on the funding. So then STARS doesn't have to go to 5 different municipalities. They can come to all of us at one time. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay. So everybody's clear that what we're requesting is that they hold a regional STARS funding presentation through the partnership. And that's the motion that's in front of us right now. Any further discussion? Councillor Cunningham.
I'm just wondering, are you wanting a time frame on that, Councillor McGee?
The way I understand our bylaws, we have to present this first, and the timeframe will come from the partnership.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, then I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that looks like it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so then the other item that's been bantied about the table here is discussion around the level of support currently and whether we would wish to change that. And I've heard some comment kind of on either side of that equation. So on any further discussion in that area? Councillor Cunningham.
I think there's been a couple instances in the last while where even though our budget's done, things have come back to us, so that doesn't really bother me at all. And at the end of the day, if I'm sitting in Three Hills Hospital waiting for that beautiful red helicopter, I don't really care at the end of the day whether the money's coming from AHS donations or municipality. I'm just happy that it's coming. So, yeah, I'm totally in favor with the 5,000 for this year. As Councillor Christie suggested, if we want to wait to get some more information, whether it's from Alberta Health and partnership, I'd be willing to do that too.
Okay. Councillor Penner.
I can get behind the 5,000, no problem. I just don't want to be seen as the big boy, so I'd like to get more feedback from the regional partnership before we, so I do not want to get back to STARS and say we'll do the 1.5 this year and the 2 next year or whatever. Right now we can agree on this and then we will get back to them for the future years.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comment or discussion? If there's no further discussion or comment and no one is putting a motion on the table, no specific councillor has put that motion forward, then we would be staying at the 3,000 that we've previously agreed to.
I'll make the motion that we increase it just for 2024 to $5,000 to STARS. And we'll revisit the rest once the other information that we're requesting comes back in and STARS comes back next year to do their annual report to us.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councillor Forbes that council amend the 2024 budget and provide an additional $2,000 to STARS, which would make our total funding then for the 2024 year $5,000. We clear what we're okay. Okay, so we're adding an additional 2,000 and then the total funding will be 5,000 in the 2024 budget. Clear? Councillor Deputy Reeve Whitstock.
I'm assuming those funds will come from contingency, or where are we going to pull them from?
Mr. Hogan.
We can take those from contingency. We can take them from revenue stabilization. It's up to councils where you want that funding to come from.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, I'm not adverse to funding STARS. I think I actually know 2 people in the last week that have been taken to a facility with the STARS ambulance or STARS helicopter. But holy crap, we're getting deeper and deeper into this medical stuff. I mean, the amount of money that we put into our medical clinic, and I'm not going to go there. Regardless of, Yeah, I'm good with it. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Forbes, your motion now reads that council amend the 2024 budget and provide an additional $2,000 to STARS for a total funding of $5,000 with the funds to come from council contingency. Are you okay with that wording? Okay. Yep, thank you for that. This is also one of those little areas that I had a conversation with our MLA, Cooper, about. And he says, fasten your seatbelts, things are coming. So hopefully he's correct. Mr. Hogan.
Just through Mr. Chair to provide clarity to council, is the motion is worded council contingency, just so that's not confused with your contingency reserve. In council's operating budget, you have $25,000 for what's labeled as a council contingency. So we would actually be taking this $2,000 from an existing part of the operating budget. So at the end of the day, it would not actually be an increase to the operating budget. You're just taking money from one area and putting it in another.
Okay. Councillor Forbes loves that idea, so good. Any other discussion? If there is no further discussion, I am going to ask the question. So any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And I'm sure STARS will be thankful for our contribution in that area as well. Okay. I think I'd like to finish our open agenda items, and then before we go to closed session, we'll take a brief break. So council follow-up action list. And I'd like to start this conversation, and I'd like to start it in regards to a presentation that Capstone made here to council in November, where they undertook to give us information in a number of areas. List of community involvements, what their community benefit program might look like, what local community initiatives they've undertaken, a tax revenue estimate that they undertook to provide to council, and also they undertook to provide us with the landowners that are participating in the project that actually live in the area of the proposed development. Those are all things that they sat at this table in front of council and gave an undertaking to provide. And I'd like us to follow up and say to Capstone, please respond to the areas in which you agreed to provide information. One of the things about being a good corporate citizen is that when you provide council with an undertaking, I think that you should follow it up. So, and if you need clarification on the areas that they provided those undertakings, it's quite evident in the video presentation that they made to council. So that would be my first follow-up request. Councillor McGee.
I really appreciate you bringing that up. I think that's very important. Thank you, Reeve.
Any other questions or comments regarding follow-up action list? Councillor Cunningham.
So I'll do my preamble. I know it's not on the list, I'm sorry, but I'm just wondering, Mr. Gannon, if you could give us a little bit of an update on our municipal development working groups that we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I just want to clarify if ratepayers still have a chance to hop in on those if they're interested, and what the cutoff date is.
Thank you, through the chair. We are currently sitting at 108 participants for AQUA, and they have until next Tuesday to sign up. The one that is scheduled for Trochu currently has 50 participants, and they have until 4:30 today to sign up. So please do so.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Forbes?
Just a question for my CAO Hogan. Have we received the actuals that I asked for at budget on December the 12th yet? I still have not received those and would like them, please.
Through Mr. Chair, administration's intent on that is we'll be producing, once our year closes later this month, we'll be producing the fourth quarter variance report, which will have those numbers on them.
All right.
Okay, thank you for that. And just in case Mr. Zier felt he was going to be totally ignored today, I am again just following up on Huxley, and I noticed lately that it's quite dark at night, and just wondering where we are with regards to a number of items in Huxley.
Fair enough, thank you for that. So through the chair, we do have the both the Huxley wastewater assessment as well as the street lighting assessment scheduled for presentation to council in February. I have it right now on the books for February 13th. I'm very optimistic on that. We received an update from the consultant this morning as far as draft is to be coming to us next week. So if that allows us enough time to get it reviewed and in front of council, on the agenda for the 13th. If not, worst case scenario, it'll be the 27th of February. And then I'll have both recommendations for the wastewater solutions, any new action plans that council may want to look at for operations of that system, as well as some costs on recommendations and costs on the streetlight improvements.
Okay. And so then following it coming to council, I would assume we may have some conversation in the community as well.
That's correct. Yeah, that'll be a recommendation for council to approve that second community engagement session.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions related to the council action item list? Councillor Forbes.
Trying to read and do things at the same time. Do we have an update of whether or not Wheatland County has done their mutual fire aid agreement with us yet?
Through the chair, I don't have that information, but I can bring that back to council. I will check in with the manager of protective services to verify.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions on the council follow-up action list? I'm not seeing any, so then what I would be looking for would be a motion to receive for information. Councillor Forbes?
So moved.
Thank you for that. So a motion to receive for information the council follow-up action list as presented. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the only other item on our agenda for the day is closed session. However, I would like to do a small recess prior to making that motion. So let's give ourselves, I'm going to say 6 minutes, which would take us to 11:10. And we'll be back at that point in time. Okay, it is 11:10. And I am going to call the meeting of council back to order. And our next order of business is we have two items under closed session, FOIP Section 19 and Section 17, confidential evaluations, and a personnel update. So what I would be looking for at this point in time would be a motion from council to go into closed session. Councilor Christie?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to go into closed session under FOIP Section 17 and FOIP Section 19. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. So we are into closed session. All right, so we had a motion at 12:38 to return to the open session, made by Councillor Cunningham and passed unanimously. We recessed to allow the return of the public. It's now 12:42. So we are back in session. And there are no motions coming out of the closed session, and therefore at this time I'm going to adjourn the meeting.